Starfield is just weeks away from launch. While the Starfield Direct and several other videos from Bethesda have given us a good look at what Starfield has to offer, there are still lots of questions that many fans have. Digging back through some old interviews with Todd Howard, I noticed a theme.
Tone. You go back to tone. That goes back to a tone thing.
We spent a lot of time on tone.
What the heck does he mean by tone? Let me explain. Welcome to Starfield Signal, your place for everything Starfield. A quick note, I'm doing another Starfield community video where I feature you, so stick around after the credits of this video to hear more. Yes, Todd Howard seems to talk a lot about tone. He mentioned it so much in his interview with Lex Friedman that Lex actually answered his own question.
They are fundamentally different.
They all have their own tone. Yeah, so Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 intentionally a very different tone.
Oh, really?
So what exactly does Todd mean by this? Well, let's watch this extended clip where he clarifies a bit.
Let's even step back, because you mentioned tone. You mentioned tone a lot. What do you mean by tone?
It's all of it together. If you look at, I think you can flip through, let's just take fantasy. You know, you can sort of look at a couple images or things and know, how does Lord of the Rings different from Game of Thrones, that is different than Arthurian like Excalibur, or your Sci-Fi Channel, series of the month.
This makes perfect sense. I definitely get a different feeling watching the first 10 minutes of Fellowship of the Ring than you get in the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones. And as you go deeper into those worlds, the more unique and specific their tone becomes. So how does Howard intend for Starfield to set itself apart in its tone?
Finding that, what's going to make it kind of unique, and usually I lean on something that is grounded in reality for what it is, and then have lesser kind of fantastical things, at least at the start, and then they kind of build. So even when we do Starfield, it's a science fiction game. There are laser guns and spaceships that fly around and shoot each other and blah, 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 blah. But it's grounded in, you can look at it and say, oh, okay, this is kind of an extension of things as we view them today in space.
So we can definitely expect for Starfield to feel grounded in our current reality, meaning that our history, our technology, the ambitious spirit of humanity are all starting ingredients for Starfield to begin building its realistic and believable setting.
That it has some grounding in our reality, whether that's historical or near future, or that it's grounded in some semblance of the reality that you and I understand, so that it can feel, it's also making it feel a little bit welcoming.
If tone is this important to building a brand new IP and launching a game that will most likely be played by millions of players for over a decade or more, how can we expect tone to practically affect gameplay?
That goes back to a tone thing, right? When you actually play the game, because it's a game, we don't really kill you when you fly out in space. But it has a tone of, there's some effort involved, and we've dialed it back as we've been making the game. Whereas we used to run out of fuel, you jump and get stranded, which on paper was it's a great moment when you get stranded and you have to press this beacon and you don't know who's gonna come. Turns out that's not it just stops your game. We found you'd be playing the game and I ran out of fuel. Okay, I guess I'll just wander these planets trying to mine for fuel so I can get back to what I was doing. It just, it's a fun killer.
I actually really love this idea that spaceflight is dangerous. While I'm glad they tested the fuel system he mentions and eventually dialed it back so it doesn't kill you and, stop the fun, we can see and hear some other examples of this. Listen to this clip from the Starfield showcase in 2022 when we get in our ship for the first time. And I'm actually going to cut the video feed to black here so it's not a malfunction, but this will help draw out the sounds. And one more time with the video off. And now with the video on. This is such a small but impressive detail to hear these pops and creaks and pings, almost like you're flying your dad's old bicycle into space. This doesn't sound like the kind of pristine, well-oiled, and more importantly, airtight sealed futuristic spaceships we usually see in movies or games. This is one example of how we see tone play out in Starfield. Another example is how we see all of the different parts, systems, elements, and themes come together to create a singular, holistic experience. Todd mentions this is such a big task for the kind of games they like to create that they actually spend quite a bit of time in this part of development.
And then you kind of have a final 6 months to a year on a game, which is, okay, we've built everything now. And usually it needs a lot of glue, where we have a lot of very different elements that maybe aren't clicking together the way you want, outside of the regular polish for levels and features. And we're shaving and gluing and sticking things together so that it's not this schizophrenic game experience that things flow from one into another.
This glue, as he calls it, is such a big deal. Without it, we really would feel like we're playing 5 different games, and at best, this would create a confusing and disjointed experience. But at worst, this would create a lot of frustration for the player, causing them to potentially quit playing altogether. So, what's one of the key ways that Todd and his team make everything in Starfield fit together so seamlessly? Well, to put it simply, they want to create a host within the game that is going to gently guide you into the different systems and through the story and the worlds.
The skill system and the interface is the party host. If you think about a game, most games, particularly what I like to do, is that's your person who says, welcome, do this, go here, check this out. And the skill system and the way it reacts on the HUD, the interface of the game, is sort of leading you to the next thing. And once you get that flow down and the rate at which the game is giving you activities, then you're in like what we describe as a game flow. It's not till really that last year. Before that, the game flow is it doesn't even exist in the way that you see it in the final game.
As gamers, we all know how great this feels when we get into this flow state where everything is just clicking and the moment-to-moment elements of switching between combat to crafting to exploration all feels effortless and natural. And speaking of exploration, I think this is going to be a crucial part of Starfield's overall tone and the unique experience it gives players, contrasted against the Fallout and Elder Scrolls games.
And then when you get to Starfield and science fiction, same sort of thing, where if you were to open it up and you could do anything, how are we providing that experience? And we love exploration, so when you get into a game like this, that's why people say, why do you have 1,000 planets? Because we'd rather give you the option to do that than say no.
Yeah. And Todd Howard interestingly remarks that other space exploration games are less of an influence than you would think, but looks to more immersive experiences that really make you feel like you're in a different place and time.
Those other games that are science fiction, I think you might look at and say, okay, this is science fiction, it's like that. I think the minute, obviously on the ground, it has similarities to Elder Scrolls and Fallout and the things that we've made and how it feels in your hands, or some certain mechanics. But believe it or not, it's the games that put you in a world, that transport you to a place. So I think it probably also, as a flow, probably has more of a feeling of like a Red Dead 2, right? Like I'm living the Western fantasy.
Yeah.
And so in this, you're living this science fiction explorer fantasy, and sometimes that's being on a barren planet and nothing is going on. For me, it's games where I feel I am rooted in the reality of this universe of the game, and everything else kind of disappears.
A quick 9-second break before the rest of our video. If you're enjoying the video, hit that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, consider doing that and joining our Signal crew, and check out the store tab on our YouTube channel for some Signal merch. With all this in mind, and knowing that Starfield has been in full production for almost 8 years, it would be a reasonable concern to wonder if Starfield is too big or has too many systems or too many different moving parts. Todd candidly addresses these concerns.
It's a very large game. Obviously, there's a lot to it. It can be complicated at times. And we have found, though, that the gaming audience, particularly our fans, they want to have all those options. And I do think more than anything we've done, I really believe this, that the more you give to Starfield, the more it gives back to you. And that was one of our goals.
The more you give to Starfield, the more it gives back. Well, gamers around the world are weeks away from giving countless hours of their time, attention, energy, and creativity to Starfield. So I, for one, can't wait to see what Starfield has in store for my story. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all of the patrons and YouTube channel members who support the channel. Now for more info on the Starfield community video. Similar to what we did before the Starfield Direct, I'll make a compilation video of everyone's thoughts and upload it here on the channel for the world to see. So here's what you need to do. Make a video telling me what you are most excited about for Starfield. Bonus points if it's something other than shipbuilding, because I know that's a big one for all of us. Just take a vertical selfie video with your phone. It can be real simple and casual. Try to keep it under 30 seconds, and then upload it to YouTube, and then post that link in the Discord forum that I'll link in the description and pinned comment for this video. I'm excited to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Signal crew. For now, may you find wonder as you journey through the stars.